What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Off the Top Rope, Off the Mic Sports Network. Wherever you are watching this, we appreciate it. Thanks to everybody who joined the live Dynamite post show, which was basically I'd say about 35, 40 minutes of Dynamite. And then we just spent 15, 20 minutes just bullshitting about stuff because Dynamite, in a nutshell, was what I expected it to be. But, some of the decisions and the creative pathways that were taken towards Forbidden Door just dumbfounded me. And somebody could come up with a better name for this than me. This ain't Forbidden Door. This is Rush Door. Rush to get to the ending door or whatever, something like that. So somebody could come at me within the chat, help me rename this show, because there's not a whole lot forbidden about this show, unless, of course, you're talking about some of the forbidden things that you do as a wrestling booker, which is rush to moments and, give away things or, kill off angles that you were selling and booking meaningless matches for a show in London that you already have a lot of tickets out for. You don't need to sell any more tickets. You're going to have a lively crowd in London. So we already talked about, the first step to this was Athena and Toni Storm. Athena literally won her Casino Gauntlet opportunity at All in Texas. And she's just going to give up her opportunity to face Toni Storm, a woman who she has already pinned in the ring, clean as a sheet, as part of a tag team match. Yet we're going to that already. Okay, cool. Then, what we already kind of knew was going to happen, MJF and Hangman Adam Page, really great segment to open the show, but Hangman basically rage baits MJF into giving up his Casino Gauntlet opportunity to face Hangman Adam Page at Forbidden Door. So your men's and women's world championship matches are rushed because you don't have any creative bone in your body to build a story, build a compelling narrative to get to for 4, 5, 6 weeks to get to Forbidden Door. You don't have a compelling way to get to another woman from New Japan or somewhere else to get Toni Storm there, rather than just wasting the world title opportunity on that side. There's nobody really in the men's division, but you couldn't have had somebody from the New Japan or the CMLL side challenge Hangman and, maybe had, MJF face Mystico, since he's got a history with Mystico. That could have been something you could have done. You just rushed to the world title match. That being said, I'm thrilled that Hangman and MJF are facing each other. I just think this is way too soon. And MJF giving up his opportunity when the women's division is literally doing the exact same thing. That's a problem. You're just rushing this so you can have big matches on this show. And the story speaks for itself, but it feels so rushed and feels so overpressed. And then we get to later in the show where I was just about to flip my lid. We could go a couple of different directions here. Let's start with this. So we thought we were getting Darby Allin and Jon Moxley one-on-one, which would have been rushed in itself, too, to do that. Jon Moxley shouldn't have been on TV after All In. He shouldn't have. He should have been off television, should have been licking his wounds. Darby Allin maybe could have picked up a couple of wins there and there, do some maybe with some of the other Death Riders while Jon Moxley is, taking some sort of a vacation. And then you build to something maybe at All Out or further down the line. Who knows? Or Wrestle Dream in Seattle would have made, or if it's not going to be in Seattle, it's going to be in St. Louis. Wrestle Dream, if it were in Seattle, it would have made a lot more sense. But so then they have this long-winded segment after Jon Moxley beats Kevin Knight in a nothing match, and Kevin Knight, God bless him, looked impressive in the match, but nobody's going to remember that performance because it all came about the post-match stuff. Darby Allin tries to put Wheeler Yuta in a body bag. Claudio gets Wheeler out of the body bag, puts Darby Allin in the body bag. He beats him up. They're going to pounce on his neck. And then Will Ospreay, who 3 weeks ago said he seemingly had a career-threatening neck injury, comes back in and says, hey, let's do a lights-out steel cage with teams in it. And we were vague on what was going on. But then it gets even better or worse, depending on how you watch this show. So then it's revealed, hey, Death Riders, they're going to have their team. We didn't know the number of people in it, but Will Ospreay reveals, hey, Hiroshi Tanahashi and his almost zero knees left at the end of his career, we're going to put him in a lights out steel cage match. Really? Okay, cool. And I don't know what he has to do with, the whole Death Riders angle here, why we're assembling teams on 10 days notice to fill up a steel cage match with a guy who's got bad knees, and we got a guy who has a bad neck. So we're really doing that. So then, John Moxley, and also Will Ospreay reveals, hey, we've got two unconfirmed people on our team. John Moxley then goes and finds the Young Bucks, who are jobbers, if you remember, in a jobber room. No dialogue, no trying to hash out. Yes, I understand that they were associated in the Anarchy in the Arena match back at Double or Nothing, but still, they have no creative or no EVP say anymore. They're not valuable anymore. They're being portrayed as jobbers. So why would John Moxley want to team with them now? So that doesn't make any sense. But then the cherry on top of the sundae, because we're going to get to the other piece of this that really pissed me off too, of the rest of the show that really, like I said, from a wrestling standpoint, it was fine, but it's what I expect. It's like nothing matches wrestling. But then the booking just drove me mad. So then Tony Schiavone, right before the main event, which was a random trios match that nobody gave a shit about, Tony Schiavone gets in the ring, basically says, we've got some big announcements. One of them is we're going to do a 5-on-5 steel cage lights out match at Forbidden Door. So 10 men in a cage, if you're counting at home. 10 men in a cage. You've got the Death Riders, which is going to consist of Gabe Kidd, okay, New Japan tie, but we know he's with the Death Riders. I think Claudio and Mox are going to be there. And the Young Bucks taking on the team of Will Ospreay, bad neck, Hiroshi Tanahashi, legend, but near the end of his career, Darby Allin, Kota Ibushi, and Kenny Omega. Yeah, the Kenny Omega who just lost his international championship in that unification match against Kazuchika Okada. He doesn't want revenge on losing to Okada in that match. He doesn't want revenge on Don Callis, even though that was forced in. No, we're just going to put him back with the Death Riders, rush his return, and basically throw him in a nonsensical 10-man steel cage match just for a bunch of spots. We haven't seen or heard from Kenny Omega since All In. And you bring his return in a graphic near the end of the show. Do you guys understand how fucking stupid that is? That is mind-numbing. Mind-numbing to me that they did this. So we went from a one-on match, Darby and Mox, which would have been fine, to a 10-man tag with so many problems that I'll have to get into them later on. It's just holy fucking shit. This was bad. And then we get to what I would say is the main event. Because the more I thought about this, I was very frustrated initially about the Kenny Omega thing, because it's like, that's one of your biggest stars. But one of your most compelling stories, and one of the reasons one guy is in your company, was literally spoiled. The moment was spoiled, and we rushed to a match. And that was Cope and Christian. So Cope has his match with Stokely. Nothing match, no finish to it. He beat up Stokely. Some fans, said some stuff in the crowd, which was funny. And Adam Copeland was clearly having fun. So then FTR attacks, and it breaks the stipulation of physicality. They get one up on Cope. He gets powder thrown in his eyes. He's going to get pile driven. Out comes Christian with the spiked bat Spike. He fends off them. Sabian and Nick Wayne. They basically get involved, and peace offering from Christian to Cope, where he gives him the spike bat, and Adam Copeland, great moment, hugs Christian in front of less than 2,000 people in a music hall in Cincinnati, instead of waiting for the moment in front of maybe 13,000 people in their home country and their hometown of Toronto, Canada in September, waiting like a month to do it, instead of building that without any emotional dialogue, hashing out the issues that they've had over the last couple years of Christian telling him to go fuck yourself. All of that thrown away for a cool little moment on a random Dynamite. And then on top of that, one of the other two announcements that Tony Schiavone made was, hey, we're doing Cope and Christian as a team, even though they technically haven't really resolved their differences after the hug, because Christian looked a little, taken aback by it. And then it's Christian and Cope versus Nick Wayne and Kip Sabian. You couldn't have waited and maybe had Christian put over Nick Wayne and then get the tag team together and realize for the greater good and then potentially fully reunite this thing at some point down the line. I'm going to get into why this was a fuck up too of the highest order in another separate video, because there are so many countless examples of how you could have milked this out even longer and made the moment even bigger and done it in front of, more people. Listen, the card looks loaded, but there's no investment in this whatsoever. No investment. And virtually every single one of these matches feels forced or rushed. Maybe we should call it forced door. Forced door. How about that? The forced door. Because, literally, I don't know what in the world is causing Tony Khan to just blow his load on every single big match that he needs to have, because he needs to give everybody their bang for their buck for $50 on pay-per-view. You don't need every freaking single match known to man, and you don't need to spoil every single story in every single moment in the blink of an eye. You can build, you can have people invested, because then when you get to these shows, it's just going to be like a popcorn flick. That's what this company has become. It's a bunch of popcorn flicks. Hey, cool action, cool action, cool action, Canadian Destroyer, super kick, whatever. The moments are starting to be wasted, and a couple of the biggest moments that you could have had: Kenny Omega's return, Will Ospreay's return. You're throwing them in a freaking 10-man schmoz of a friggin' steel cage match that I don't even know what the fuck that's going to look like. And then Cope and Christian, the whole reason Adam Copeland's there is to reunite with his friend Christian. And the moment that you had, you gave it away on a random Dynamite. And you're just going to put them together on Forbidden Door because you need matches. You need stuff. I swear to God, this company squanders so many opportunities. It's ridiculous. Forced door, Forbidden Door, Rush Door, whatever the fuck you want to call it. What a joke. What a joke. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.